You're listening to the One Step Deeper podcast with your host, Jimmy Moore and Brittany Davis. OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.
I'm just stepping out of my typical. Just figured I'd bring something new, something flashy. Got some flashy head stuff going on.
The typical is the atypical. Like, I don't think I've seen you do. I've gone back and watched some old videos. There's no two looks that you've done. Whereas you always see Jimmy in a t-shirt. This is the best you gonna get for a look, I promise.
You learned it. You learned my secret. I have no look. I love that about me. I can wear goth makeup just as fast as I wear rainbow eyes, and I can wear black gothy t-shirt as fast as I can wear something with flowers on it. Like, I have no, just whatever. I'm just who I am, right?
And your hair is all curly, and you got the hair. Like, yeah, it's a different look. And by golly, I haven't seen you on camera in, like, my God, it feels like a millennia.
Yeah, what has it been, like 6 weeks?
We were off for a month in the month of, June. And then 2 weeks ago, you had Brittany to talk about gentle parenting, which was wonderful, by the way. I love Brittany. I guess I love all Brittany's now because she was delightful. And then last week was Wild Man. And again, so I hope everybody enjoyed. You got to meet Wild Man. And so now we're back, and yeah, it feels like it's been a million years since we've recorded. Now we're best friends, so we talk, but not like this. So it's kind of cool.
But I don't know about you. I really needed this last month because I've been dealing with some narcissists in my life, and I just needed a month to just chill, man.
And you have been gaslit to the hilt, not just the last month, but most of your life, as have I, which is why here today in episode 30, we wanted to talk about gaslighting and narcissism, because the two do go hand in hand. We touched on them a little bit when we did those very emotional, religious bullshittery episodes that we did about, like I said, 2 months ago. But yeah, we're going to dig deep into this one here today. So guys, welcome. This is the One Step Deeper podcast. Here on OneStepDeeperPodcast.com. It's how you can find us on the internet. We have the videos and the audio there. We do debut these episodes on Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So go check those out over on YouTube. Just type in the keyword One Step Deeper. You'll find the show. It's a traditional podcast, so that airs on Mondays. You can find on all the usual suspects: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Alexa. So go check those out there as well. And we are on the internet as far as social media goes. You can go on Instagram or Facebook, type in One Step Deeper. You'll find the show. We also put the videos there as well. As I always say, if you can't find the show, it's your problem, because I put it literally everywhere. I think I spend, Brittany, about 2.5 hours making sure it gets in, and it's also on YouTube. It's everywhere on the internet. So if you can't find our show, you're not looking, because it's literally, you will stumble over it if you halfway look for One Step Deeper online. But today, you guys, episode 30 today, and it is all about narcissism and gaslighting. And let's start, because you and I both have examples of narcissists in our lives who have done this whole idea of gaslighting us. So I'm a stickler for kind of defining terms. I know we try not to be formal here, but I think if we're going to talk about these two subjects, we need to define what they are. So why don't you define what narcissism is?
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing, because just because you and I talk about narcissism and gaslighting all the time doesn't mean that the listener or the watcher knows what that is. So I'm sure you've heard the term narcissist tossed around, but perhaps you'll know what it is. It's a person who has basically, they're self-involved. They're all about themselves. And because they're so much about themselves, they disregard human feeling outside of themselves. And technically, if we're being technical, they don't know how to communicate feelings. And if they have feelings, it's always anger. It's always explosions. It's always just huge You're smiling. Yes. What do you need?
I'm smiling because I'm going to tell on myself about your and I's relationship. Brittany likes to call me a narcissist when I get stressed, and I guess I do show those signs. See, I'm telling on myself.
I'm glad you brought that up, though.
But it's a good eye opener when you do that, because it reminds me, because I have tendencies because of people in my life that have been that way. So monkey see, monkey do. It's almost, and it's been a long time since I've been around them, but still it's hardwired in the brain. So when I get stressed or a little bit flustered, I guess I do get that way. And so this little lady calls me out on it. Anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there while we're having the discussion of narcissism.
No, I appreciate it, because as we get into talking about gaslighting and narcissism, you and I have had seemingly two different reactions to other narcissists in our life. So on the daily basis, you're good. Like, we're good. We talk all the time. I'd call you out if there was anything. Love you, man. But when you do get stressed, you lean that. When I get stressed, what do? I shut down.
Yes.
I hide. I go away. I run away, especially from any tendencies like that. Gone. See ya. Bye. Because I can't do that. It messes with my energy. And so we all react in different ways. But like, back to that narcissistic, like, yes, I'm sure you're listening to us right now, watching us, and you're like, yep, I know one of those people that are just manipulative, and they're oversensitive to everything. They blame others. It's never their fault.
And at the heart of it is, let's just be honest, at the heart of it is selfishness. It's all about them. There's really, like, it's almost impossible for you to have a care and love and concern for another human being that you then turn around and be a narcissist towards. Those two just don't coexist. You either love and respect that person, or you disrespect them. I'm going to parse words a little bit here, because love is thrown around so nonchalantly. I love you, within family relationships. But do you, if you treat them poorly because you're so self-centered, you're so selfish that you can't see that you're being less than what that person needs by being narcissistic, and by extension of that, using gaslighting techniques, which we'll get into here in a minute. But let's camp out in narcissism a while, because I've had people in my life, very prominent people in my family. Obviously, those of you that watch One Step Deeper, you know all about my dad's story. Man is, was, and will always be a narcissist. I kept thinking, Brittany, as he would get older, he would just like grow out of it. And honestly, he did mellow as he got older, but he's still a narcissist, still to the core. And it's almost like once a narcissist, always a narcissist, which is why I love when you check me, because it's like, I don't want that to be a part of my life at all.
I personally believe that anybody, like, people are diagnosed. Like, this isn't just something that we're throwing around. It's not just some word we're throwing around. There are people who have been actually diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Like, it's a thing. There's actually been a new thing that I've been reading, that it's not necessarily a disorder, and we're doing a disservice to people when we call anything like anxiety disorder, a disorder. It's a reaction. So a narcissistic personality response, which is probably what happened. And we've talked about this too, that narcissistic tendencies come from your past and other narcissistic tendencies that were pushed on you. Yeah. And so it just becomes this cycle. And so you're at the point where you are noticing, and you're having your friend who can be very blunt, point these things out, where you're like, oh shit, I see that about myself. Let me not fix it. Let me be aware of this. Let me be observant.
Aware. Like, literally, You say it, I go, crap. Like, it's like this annoying little gnat. I keep swiping at it. I can't quite get it to go away, but it just shows up every once in a while. But not often. I think I'm pretty good at it, like you said, most of the time. But when it comes, and yeah. And I give you full permission, by the way. I don't just let her just abuse me. No, I say, okay, if that happens, you call my bullshit out, because I don't that in my life. I've got too many good things in my life that would mess it up.
Yeah, and I think that's good that you've opened that door to that. And listen, I'm not like a straight up bitch about it. I'm just like, Jimmy, go back and read that, or let's go back over those words.
And I've even caught myself while we were gone. You and I had a discussion because you went quiet on me a long time because you were going through some stuff. And I said something to you in a text and you didn't respond. And then I went back and reread it and went, crap, did it again. And I even admitted to you, I know that's horrible. And you were like, oh my God, he's figured it out.
Yeah, I was so excited for that moment, like when that self-discovery. And so, if you have people in your life who are narcissists, I'm telling you, they're not going to react to a call out like Jimmy did to me. Don't think that that's going to happen. If you have somebody in your life who's manipulative and sensitive like this, Jimmy's the rarity. It doesn't happen that way. Just a warning.
Well, and narcissists, they do no wrong. Literally everything that's wrong is everybody but them. And that's a key, guy. And guys, you know this about people in your life. Think about those people right now. They just popped in your head when I said they're never wrong. You know who you're thinking of. I've got very specific people, not just my dad, other people in my life that literally, if they said, oops, I was wrong, I would keel over because it would be so shocking.
Or this is the one I love. I'm not wrong. And if I am wrong, I'm only wrong because you made me be wrong.
Ooh, and that's gaslighting.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Let's define the gaslighting term because that, again, might be a new term for some people. So when someone gaslights, define what that means. And we just gave an example.
Yeah, there's a good example. Gaslighting is when someone manipulates and makes you think that what you saw or what you heard wasn't what you saw or what you heard, therefore making you question yourself instead of them. And
the telltale sign is you're confused. When they say these things, you kind of go, am I the reason why? It kind of makes you doubt when you were never the reason, but they make you doubt just enough. And then they use that guilt trip to say, see, if you had not, then I wouldn't have blank, when the blank that they did was blank. All right. We'll leave that one clean. So
I'm literally like grasping my book because like nothing gets me riled up more than gaslighting, because I didn't know this term. I wasn't familiar with this term. I had no idea what this was until my late 20s. And when I started reading these things and learning more about gaslighting, I'm like, oh my God, this has happened to me my entire life. Whoa, wow. And you just have to like sit with that and realize how many times you have been made to question your own freaking sanity.
Do you know how many times when I was a teenager, my dad would say, help me remember, and then he'd say something that I'm supposed to remember. Then if I don't remember the thing I'm supposed to help him remember, then he gets mad at me and blames me that he himself did not remember. Anybody else put up with that kind of bullshit? Like, that was like the norm. And I would sit there, and I'm pretty good. I'm pretty sharp. I'm sharper now than I was then, but like I would literally, and I wouldn't have a pen and paper to write things down, and there was no cell phones back then that I could like type a little note. He'd be like, help me remember. And he would literally get mad at me to the point of beating me if I didn't remember that thing. I told you, help me remember, and you didn't. And then he'd hit me. And I'd be like, why am I your memory? That didn't make sense. And that was gaslighting.
Oh, 100%. Like that's some rough, manipulative, abusive shit right there, to just, you're responsible for me and my everything, right? And that's another narcissistic tendency. Narcissistic parents, guys. Oh man,
worst. It's the worst when it's the parents, because you have a level of trust and you have a level of I want to be connected with, that then makes you a very susceptible target to their manipulation.
Yes, and the thing is, like when you're a child, the way that your parent speaks to you as a child dictates the rest of your life, unless you are like me and at 28 you're finally like, screw this shit, I'm going to therapy. I am unlearning that bullshit. So like it just becomes who you are, and you hear that voice in your head of, well, I wouldn't be this way to you if you weren't this way. Or, I would love you if you did this. Or I would be there for you if you told me.
Conditional.
Oh, yes. Yeah. With narcissists, everything is conditional. It's conditional that they give you any attention, but if you don't give them attention, they're going to fly off the handle. They're going to lose it.
And you and I have talked about this off the air. They get mad when you don't call or you don't come by, and it's like, hey, it's a two-way street. You know where I live. You know my phone number. It's a two-way street. Why am I the one that takes the onus of that? That's another gaslighting technique. That's another selfish thing. If you want to talk to said person that you're gaslighting and you're narcissistic towards, maybe you should pick up the damn phone or visit their address, and that's it. But no, because it's such a self-centered, ego-driven kind of mentality, this narcissism, no, it's on you.
Yeah.
I'm hitting home because we both have felt this directly from people in our lives.
Yeah, and it's tough, man. It's like we're sitting here smiling and laughing and cackling about it, but that is only because you and I have cried about this shit over the phone individually so often that it's just... Matter of fact, I literally, talking to my therapist yesterday, like my first time in his office, I said something that happened to me. I didn't even say narcissist or gaslighting. He was like, wow, that person is 100% a narcissist, and they just gaslit the shit out of you when they did that. And I was just like, you're so right. They did do that to me. I just lost it because it's like, I know this, but it's one thing for me to say it to myself, and it's a whole other thing for someone on the outside who doesn't know me, who's not my friend, who's not my family, to say, yeah, girl, that was not okay. It's a whole nother thing. And so here Jimmy and I are. Perhaps you know us, maybe you're related to us, but we're telling you right now, listen, if you feel any of these terms, if you feel gaslit, feel validated. You're feeling the right things. This is actually happening. It's reality. It's not fake. It's not in your head. You're not oversensitive. It's happening. There's your validation.
Real Good Foods is one of the fastest growing frozen food companies in the U.S. Everything they make is nutrient dense, high in protein, low in carbs, and made from real food ingredients. Instead of using processed flours, everything they make is 100% grain-free and gluten-free, which is how they keep their carbs so low. They can be found at Costco, Walmart, Target, Kroger, and in almost every grocery store nationwide. Or you can order online. Check us out today at realgoodfoods.com and at Real Good Foods on social media.
Part of the problem here, thank you for doing that. I think it is validating to a lot of people to hear that for the first time from we're friends of yours if you're watching our show or listening to us, but sometimes it's nice to hear it from people. But I think when you're in the midst of it, Brittany, I never noticed it when I was a teenager. In the midst of it, it's just what you know. It's just, all dads beat their kids. All dads berate their kids. All dads blah, blah, blah. That's been my experience. Now, thankfully, my mom was never that way. She was just too passive to do anything like that. She had her own ways of doing things, but it was never narcissism. No, Dad was the narcissist. And I've had bosses in my life with jobs that were big narcissists. You didn't stroke their ego. You got demoted. I mean, it's bad. Those kinds of things. But recognize them in your life. And when you're separated from that and then you see it again, like I remember the first time after I left the house, got away from Dad, and then went back, I saw it so crystal clear at that point, even before I knew what the term was. I was like, I called it assholism, but that's what it was. And I was just like, whoa, because in the midst of it, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know because that was my dad experience.
Yeah, if you can see the energy drain out of my eyes as you were talking, I just can't help but I have experienced two overwhelmingly narcissistic people who I think cannot be rehabilitated. And that's strong for me to say, because I don't just say that about people. One in particular who I've talked about several times on here was my mom's ex-husband, not my biological dad. This was my stepdad at the time. He is no longer in any of our lives. He is out.
Your abuser, right?
My abuser. Yeah. So when he was abusing me, he complete narcissist, extremely controlling of everybody in the house, but just in different forms. And one of the biggest things he used to say to me to like open me up for the abuse, so I guess I wouldn't scream, or he did the whole gaslight and grooming that was just so gross. But like he would say to me all the time, if you love me, you won't tell your mom. If you love me, you'll let me do this. And how do you tell? You know what I'm saying? It's like, so like I just started shaking when I started thinking about those times. And I'm usually okay, and I can talk about the abuse and I can talk about it really openly. But sometimes I'm just like, God, dog, somebody said that shit to me. That hurt. That was hard.
He played on the sensibilities of your personality, because at that point in your life, you were already having the perfectionist kind of mentality, because you were being judged for not being the perfect. And so in order to be that good stepdaughter, good daughter, you felt like you were kind of obligated, because he manipulated that part of your personality to get what he wanted. Yeah. When the objective is to make him happy and not you, that is a telltale sign you are being a victim of a narcissist.
And like, and if perhaps you're dealing with a narcissist and they tell you those things, if you love me, you would, no, just no. But another thing is, if that doesn't work as a tactic, I can guarantee you what comes next is fear. If they cannot control you with love and guilting you into love, or using that against you, they will make you fear for your life, or make you fear for something else. They will make you so afraid of speaking, of talking, of moving.
Yes.
And that was the next step with him.
I mean, that's what the abuse was with me. Mm-hmm. Is if I would not respond to the harsh words. Well, he came out with the fists and the slaps pretty hard. Even when I did obey the verbal, but it's all about power. Narcissists just crave the power, and the moment you don't give them the power, is when, you're right, they kind of step it up and they kind of freak out, because if they lose control, that is the kryptonite for narcissists. They have to control every part, and as soon as they're out of control, they're most volatile. I saw my dad go into rage when he was out of control with situations, and it was everything he could do to channel all that rage and anger towards violence towards me.
It's important that as we're talking about this, you're talking about your dad, I'm talking about, my stepdad and what happened. We need to point out something that's vital. Narcissists are the biggest charmers. No one else knows except the people being abused. That's part of the gaslighting of, I couldn't possibly do that. Look at me. I'm a good person.
Right. Thank you for that, by the way, because, and I have mentioned that the problem is we've talked about this bits and pieces through all of our episodes, and we're at 30 now. So, we've done this a little while, and I feel like I've said that before, but you're right. Like, this on the outside to the common world, you look at them, everybody loves them because they are charmers, because they do intermingle. They can turn it on and off. And when off, they look like they're the most upstanding citizens of the society. I told you this about my dad. He'd be beating the crap out of me and berating me in the car on the way to church. And we get to church, and it was just, hey, brother. And it was all this, like, suddenly he was this different person. Oh, wow, look, he's just so awesome. Aren't you glad he's your dad? And I'm sitting there going, no, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, so
lights me. I'm sorry. This
No,
has
go
got
ahead.
that reality that people see him in a different way than I see him is gaslighting me, because I'm going, why does everybody love him but me?
There must be something wrong.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, when it happened and like the news came out and broke out that what he had done to me, his best friend, who I loved, still love, went to his death not believing. Not because he didn't want to believe me, but because he was like, this was my friend, and he never, that was never a thing, you know? And so yeah, and it's like on the one hand, he's like, I believe you, but I can't believe you. You know, it's too much. And same thing with the abuser's family. Like they told, I was like 15, guys. Like I was 12 when it happened, 15 when I finally spoke out about it. And I was called the liar, the horrible person. I was told that I asked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
like,
have strong feelings about that.
yeah, but like, and so not only was I being gaslit by this person, but he had developed this persona about him that I then was gaslit by everybody else around him, and unknowingly they abused me even more than I
Yes.
already was.
Yes. And this is the part. Narcissists are such charmers. They can convince other people that there's something that they're not, to the point that, again, you feel isolated, you feel all alone. And I'm sure in that moment when all that was happening and all these people were coming at you saying, why are you doing this to him? He's such a good guy, blah, blah, blah. And then you're sitting there going, but here's what happened. Like it's a lonely feeling. And that's another kind of sign, guys. If you feel like everybody seemingly doesn't believe your firsthand experience, you might be getting gaslit by a narcissist.
Yeah. Another of those statements, like from gaslighting, and this is the one that drives me up the wall. Oh, I was just joking. Where they say something that they actually mean, but when they see your reaction is not necessarily what they want it to be, it's, I was just joking. I have had to call Wildman out, of all people. Like, I have called Wildman out on this one. Stop saying that when you see that I am uncomfortable. That's it.
But
it is, I am sorry, not I was joking.
But you know what? Some of that is learned behavior, because I know Wildman was also in a not so desirable childhood. And by the way, I'm really glad people got to meet him on last week's episode. He's an amazing man. I love y'all's relationship. Hashtag relationship goals for me is the way you two gaga goo goo over each other. Did you see the rule last week, guys, when they were talking to one another? It's funny. Enough gushing about him. But like, he didn't have a great childhood either. He had very strange relationships in his life. Narcissists, racists in his life. So, and oh, by the way, if you're racist, you are a narcissist.
Oh, 100%.
You cannot be racist. Be anything but a narcissist.
Yeah. I'm sorry, like, rude as hell right now, but if you're a racist, you're disgusting, and you probably shouldn't be watching our stuff because you're disgusting.
Well, here's the thing. Thank you. But here's the thing. Narcissists don't need to go one step deeper because they're perfect.
They're perfect.
So if you're a narcissist and this happened on this channel, welcome to your reality. And Brittany, there you are. Did you get a text?
Oh, nothing happened. I don't know what. I don't know.
And now I can't hear you very well. It's real quiet.
Hear me now?
Yes. Now I came back.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what that was.
See, I think the racists were coming for.
Bring it.
Brittany's like, Josh, bring it.
Bring it, bitch!
That is one area Brittany don't fool around with, like,
Thanks.
at all.
As her best friend, guys, that's one thing that's your hot button is people that are racist and homophobic, and yeah, don't play that. And if you're all those things, number one, you're not listening to our podcast, but number two, you are disgusting pieces of shit. and you should definitely stop being narcissistic.
Yeah, you can definitely ask Jimmy. Like, I don't come at people, but that's one of those, I'm gonna come at you. And that's just from a whole line of like, I never experienced that level of narcissism until I met my husband's stepfather, who is also not in our lives because Brittany said, no. My poor husband, I love Wild Man. You guys saw it last week, how much infatuation there is between him and I. But I put my foot down when it came to his narcissistic father because I saw it before he could. Like, my poor husband was gaslit and told for years, you'll never get a better job. Like, this makes me cry for him. You'll never have a better job. You could never get, he used to work for the stepfather. Sorry, I didn't add that in there. Well, man used to work for his stepfather, and his stepfather told him for years, you'll never find a better job. You'll never get more money. There's nothing out there better for you. Basically gaslighting my husband to stay there and work.
Yes.
My husband worked 90 hours a week for $500.
Whoa.
Salary. And like, not just once a week. I like once a month. I mean, like every single week. He never worked less than 85 hours the first few years we were together and he worked there. And I finally said, absolutely not. This is disgusting. We're leaving.
Was that when he was doing the garbage truck thing?
Yeah. He would spend 12 hours on the garbage truck and come home and do maintenance work on the truck for more hours. Yeah.
Yeah, our garbage guys, I go out there periodically and I give them more money because I'm just like, I know you get pennies to do this.
Yeah, we do the same thing because we know the experience firsthand.
Yes.
But Wild Man was gaslit for his entire life by women, by his stepfather, he had an absent father. His biological father wasn't there, but like he went through so much of that. And I think that's when I started seeing it, that I was like, oh, no. Say what you want to me about me, but we not messing with Wild Man, okay? We not doing that because we'll bring out Bianca if people start messing with Wild Man. I don't do that.
You guys tried the Paleo Valley beef sticks? These beef sticks are 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. And many of the grass-fed beef sticks on the market today are actually finished with grains. They use beef sourced from small domestic farms in the United States. They only use real organic spices to flavor the beef sticks versus all the conventional spices sprayed with pesticides and other natural flavors from GMO. They also ferment the sticks, which creates naturally occurring probiotics, all great for your gut health. And best of all, they taste amazing. Again, they're Paleo Valley, my favorite beef stick on the market today. Go check them out, you guys. PaleoValley.com. Use the coupon code Jimmy at checkout for 15% off your first order. Paleo Valley beef sticks.
So you mentioned something about the stepdad with Wild Man that triggered in me the same thing that happened to me. One of the signs of narcissism is bringing you down, cutting you down. And my dad did that stuff to me all the time. He'd always threaten me with, I'm going to put you in reform school. I didn't even know what that was. I lived in rural Tennessee, and he's like, I'm going to send you to Nashville to reform school. I'm like, is it like a college? What reform school? I didn't know what it was. And, little did I know, it's like, oh, you're a bad kid. You got to go get reformed. I after a while I was like, is there a reform school or is that just a threat? And they're threatening you and in my case demasculating me. You're gay. No girl ever wants you. All these kind of like ugly things. It's almost like at that point it became so obvious if you were paying attention, but I was so caught up in it I couldn't see it at the time. And here's the other thing. I didn't realize the pain he had gone through in his life. And this is kind of the core, I think, of what makes people narcissistic. It's the trauma response.
Yeah.
It's such a trauma response. My dad was the son of an abusive, alcoholic, physically and mentally abusive father who died in his early 50s. So And I remember my brother Kevin was telling me that was the only time he ever saw Dad cry until my brother Kevin died. And that's the time I saw him cry. And it was when Grandpa died, who I never met. I never was old enough to remember. But like, he inherited that from his dad, so that narcissism was generationally passed down, just like the abuse.
Yeah.
You know, like when you put all the pieces together, like you and I try to do on this show, it makes sense. It doesn't make it right, but it makes sense.
Yeah, like that's what I was going to point out. You know, as we're going one step deeper here, it is so important for me and myself to understand where people come from, even if they're heinous people. I still want to know, why are they the way they are? Why do they believe the way they believe? Why do they think the way they do? Like, that's important for me, but in no way does my understanding rationalize and justify their bullshit. Because it is never okay to treat someone the way that you and I have been treated by narcissists in our life. It's never okay to gaslight somebody. That's why, you know, Jimmy's allowed to call me out if I do it, and I call him out. Like, that's kind of, we have that relationship where we're trying to grow each other. We have a friendship where we can call each other out. And other relationships that we have, we've learned, now we're not going to allow this. We're not going to put up with this. And so that's where you have to get, where if you do recognize, oh shit, I'm dealing with a narcissist. And there are several things you can do if you do recognize that. But like, one of them is never justifying their behavior by understanding why they are the way they are.
No. And that was a good point. But here's something else that popped in my head. A narcissist is going to call you a narcissist. I have been so amazed to watch, and I call that pot kettle black, when that happens.
Yes.
And that's been amazing to me. And I've had somebody in my life who was in my life, not anymore, and that person always looked at me as a narcissist. And so when you step back and you watch actions and you listen to things and how things go, they were the narcissist all along, but I was the one that was called the narcissist. And that's just amazing to me. And again, that's gaslighting, to call someone not a narcissist because you yourself are a narcissist and you're trying to divert attention away from your narcissism to put it on someone else. Like, that's a lot of psychological stuff.
Yeah, that kind of goes into what I was talking with my therapist about yesterday. Sorry, guys, I'm in therapy now, and so I'm just going to reference my therapist a lot.
And I was going to say, we're going to get a lot of content out of your therapy sessions because, guys, she called me for like an hour after her therapy session. I was like, Jimmy, you're not going to believe. Let's check this out. I'm like, that's called therapy. Good job.
Well, one of the things that he mentioned yesterday was you as in who you see yourself as, there's 1,000 different yous. Other people have their own version of who you are, but you're not responsible for who other people think you are. You're only responsible for yourself and how you treat other people. And if they, like, it's not your responsibility to define or refine in other people's mind who they think you are. You live your life as you, unapologetically as yourself. And if they see the changes and accept it, great. If not, it's not your responsibility to change their mind.
And you made a comment that this whole notion of go find yourself. And I was like, which version are you supposed to find? Like, you're not lost. That was an interesting observation that your therapist told you.
Right. And it really goes back to this, because dealing with narcissists, you and I have been told who we are, when to ourselves we're like, wait a minute, that's not who I am. I don't see myself as that. And so when they point it out, you have to understand, you're right. Your feelings are right. That's not who you are. That's a narcissist trying to call you something that you aren't, and it's not your responsibility to fix that.
You have hit on something that I'm just now like really solidifying in my mind. Thank you. I love this show, and I've missed you so much on this show. My dad defined who I was all throughout my teenage years. You're gay, you're no girl will want you, you're stupid even though you're an honor roll student, you need reform because you're a bad kid. I was a great kid. I wasn't perfect. I was a kid, but still, for being abused, I think I was a pretty damn good kid. All these things, he defined who I was. Oh, here was one too. And I think I've told the story about how he would make me do a lot of manual labor. So he owned restaurants, and I dug a post hole next to his sign because truckers were getting too close to it and they'd hit it. So he put up this little pole. And so he said, dig the hole. You can't go deep enough. And I'm sitting there digging. I'm getting blisters all over my hands. And he comes back out an hour later and he looks over at me, smirks, and then he kicks dirt back in it. He defined me as lazy. And you know me better than anybody, Brittany. Am I a lazy man? I'm probably one of the hardest working people you know. But like, I think that drove me to work even harder was his notion that, well, you're just a lazy, useless piece of shit. And so much of my life, foundationally, started with someone else defining me. And that's gaslighting to the hilt from a narcissist that wanted to put me in his box to define me under his terms, which justified the beatings, the berating, all the things that happened. Because if he looked at me for who I was, a wonderful honor roll student kid that was going places, had he only given me just an inkling of support, I could have been valedictorian. I could have gone to major university, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm not upset with my life. My life's wonderful for where I am today. But what would have happened?
I love this show. And it's also like gut wrenching to sit here and like go over your own life and go, shit. I remember, same, by the way, I'm 28 years old, and I would say the reason why I've gone on such an existential crisis the last year of my life is because I finally decided, you know what? I think I want to be me finally. I think I'm going to give myself permission to be who I am and not what other people want from me and what other people tell me that I am. It's time for me to be who I am. And I remember a family member that I lived with, so a parent. I'll just leave it there. I have lots of parents, so, you know, I'm not defining one of them, just a parent. Looked at me one day because I wasn't crying as a response to a movie. Everybody else in the room was crying. I wasn't crying. It was a movie, and I really wasn't paying attention. I was berated for 30 minutes about how I have zero compassion for other people. I care about nobody but myself. And I was told to go to my room and not come out because I didn't cry as a response to a movie. And so I go in my room, and I have the type of personality where if someone tells me a criticism, I take that fully because I don't just tell people things lightly. And so I assume that other people do the same thing, especially as a teenager. And so when I'm in my room, I'm like, wow, I guess I have no compassion for people and I don't care for people. I must do it more. I must show it more. And so at that point, now I'm controlled by this one thing that plays over and over and over in my head that I have no compassion. And so I go way the other way where I'm having compassion for people who don't give a shit about me because I want to be sure that I live past the words that were put on me.
Wow. Yeah, I can feel all of that because all of that happened to me too. You know what's really hard too is that as narcissists who have been so horrible to you get older, and my dad's much older now, he's in his early 70s, they don't remember. They don't remember the things because they've gotten, quote, older. Of course, he doesn't eat right, so his nutrition isn't great, so his mental faculties are not as great. Even when I talk to my mom, who was not a narcissist, but I'll talk to my mom, you remember when, blah, 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 and I'll tell her some story. She's like, no. I'm like, what? Even my sister, who's only like 2 years younger than me, I'll say something. She's like, Jimmy, you got a better memory than me. I'm like, cursed memory. And that's another thing. if you've been gaslit and you've had a narcissist, you don't forget. I kind of wish I had a little dementia at times, because I would love to forget some of those things. So I remember those things, and I think I've talked about this before on the show. I remember a lot of my abuse very vividly. I can see my head going into walls. I can see him punching my face. I remember that incident where I called them child abuser, child abuser, child abuser in the restaurant. And I remember it all. I wish I didn't. In some ways, I'm fine. I don't get a visceral reaction to it, but I can see it like a movie. And I've talked to my therapist about this. Is that okay? And she's like, well, it's just your memory is really good, and you've got an active memory. As long as you can compartmentalize it and realize you're not in imminent danger. I'm like, oh yeah, that's been gone for forever. It's decades later, but still vivid in my head. And so I still hear, you're not good enough. I still hear you need to go to reform school. I still hear you're gay. No woman will ever want you. All these things. And so on a subconscious level, it still impacts me.
It's really sad. Like, I don't care if people are gay or straight, I don't care, but it's really sad that people are still using that as a negative thing. Like, oh, you're gay. And is that supposed to be an insult? I know it was taken as an insult, especially that many years ago. Like, I can understand.
But it is if you're heterosexual and you're not interested in that. And that's cool if people are interested in that. It's just not my thing. I'm very much into girls. So. Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out, because you said it several times. Just like, that just makes me so sad that there are people out there that use that as an insult. Like,
but
what?
He's also racist. So homophobia goes along with racism.
Yes. Well, over time, gaslighting, it causes such problems in yourself. And so you don't see it. You've even said that. You don't see it until you get out of it a lot of the times. But like, you start second guessing every decision you make, not just with this person. You second guess everything about yourself, who you are, what you stand for, what you think, what you believe. You second guess that because someone else told you differently about yourself, even though who the hell do you think you are? I know me. I know who I am. And so it's so good to be confident in yourself. And if you don't know how, it's a long process that Brittany still struggles with, okay? But it takes a long time of understanding, recognizing narcissism, recognizing gaslighting, observing it, standing on the outside of it and going, I don't think that was right. But don't say anything. Don't react right away. Just kind of sit with that and be like, that's not right. And then being kind to yourself. And then here you go. Guess what time it is? When you start realizing that people are doing this to you, it's time for a boundary. My favorite thing ever. Like, you get a boundary. We're going to go Oprah on it. You get a boundary and you get a boundary. We all get boundaries.
Keto Chow is a customizable shake mix that is also perfect for cooking and baking, giving you simple, nutritionally perfect meal options. Keto Chow. Make keto easy. Discover your favorite flavor at jimmylovesketochow.com.
And that boundary sometimes leads to completely cutting that person off for your own mental sake. And you guys know, because I think one of the first things I talked about when we first started this show back in December last year, January of that year of 2020 is when I cut off my dad. And I have not talked to him now. It's been 2 years since I've last heard from him, talked to him. The only thing I've heard about regarding him was when I came back from sabbatical in March last year, and I started talking about the childhood trauma stuff. In fact, I think you were one of my first guests on Living La Vida, and we were talking about some of that stuff. And it got back to him because I was telling Mom and Dad. It got back to him. I was doing that, and he called my mom and basically said, "There's something wrong with our son. He's lying about me." And she told him to just basically go to hell and hung up on him. But that's it. That's the only, anything. There's been no effort to reach out to me, that's fine. That's what a narcissist does. He's going to sulk in, I'm right. The idiot is having a midlife crisis and he's going to do what he's going to do. And I know you've got experience with kind of, you haven't made that decision yet, but it was a lot talked about.
It was very close.
Very
Very close.
close.
Very, very close. What'd you
Until
say?
this person in your life decided to throw you a little bit of a bone, although narcissists are good at that too. Here, let me let you back in a little bit here to grab that rope. Now they're going to pull you back in and try to play the game. And I know your eyes wide open with this particular incident. And so you're like, okay, it's cool, but I'm still highly sus, as the kids say, right?
Very sus. And here's your boundary. And here's your boundary. And it's very clear and defined. And I will use actual words written. This is my line. We can do this if you don't cross this line. If you cross this line, I will not even second guess anymore.
Yeah.
No second guessing. And like, go ahead.
And that's how you handle a narcissist. You draw those clear lines and say, if you cross, then. And you've got several in your life right now that I know about, and you've done that. And I love, oh my God, you guys. I adore this woman to death. She's my best friend. But I love this version of you that you have become. I know you're becoming Brittany Lee on Instagram. But I love this, like, I'm not putting up with shit anymore. Here's the way it is. And you become the adult in a lot of these relationships with people older than you, not really kind of getting how they've treated you because they're narcissistic, but you defining the term of, I will let you come to right here, but you step over that, nope, not going to happen. And if it does, nope, you may not see your grandkids. You may not see this. You may not see that. And I feel like that is the best response to a narcissist, is strength through confidence in what you know is best for you.
Yeah, I pretty much destroyed my husband's stepfather many years ago when he had made a comment about my daughters. Remember me talking about, wow, man, that Brianka comes out with my daughters. I don't fuck around with my daughters, okay? But he made a comment about my daughters, and I said, you crossed the line. I didn't need to put a boundary there. You crossed it. You crossed the line. You will never see them again. At one time, one comment, one thing of stepping over, and he hasn't. And we will not go back. And if my husband decides to have a relationship with him, that's his business. That's nothing with me. My children will not know that man because he crossed a line.
Well, now you've got my brain curious. Can you say, what did he do?
A racist thing.
Of course.
A racist thing. I posted a sweet picture of my sweet Darcy hugging a complete stranger. We went to Hobby Lobby. I gotta tell the story now. So we went to Hobby Lobby. My kids are homeschooled. They don't know other kids. Like, they do now, but at this point they didn't. And there was a sweet little black girl from across, like just across my daughter and her, like, locked eyes. They don't know each other and just like run to each other and embrace each other.
Aww.
This was the sweetest thing ever. So I took a picture of it and posted it online. He didn't call me. He called my mother-in-law to say why she got that N-word
right
hugging on my beautiful white granddaughter.
Wow.
It got back to me. And that's when I said, you will never see your granddaughter again, because I don't play that ever. No.
Yeah.
That's the line. No. Like, I'm fired up about it. But no, like, and that's what you have to do with narcissists.
Yes.
And if they cross the line that bad, you don't have to say, oh, they crossed the line, let me set a boundary and see if they cross it again. You don't have to do that. You can completely cut them off just like that. That's your choice.
And that's you taking back power in a situation where a narcissist has always desired and craved and, quite frankly, needed the power. When I cut off my dad, that was the first time in my life I grabbed back control of the power in that relationship.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the fact that he hasn't even tried to reconcile shows you just how narcissistic he is. Now, one of the situations you've dealt with, you had a long period of time where the narcissist in your life didn't reach out until they did. And now you guys are kind of talking and you're feeling him out, trying to make sure he's not pulling you back in under false pretenses. But I hope for the best for you, because look, I think we all want our people closest to us to be in our lives. You don't want to have to make that hard line, but for Jimmy's mental health's sake, I had to do that with my dad.
And that's 100% okay and justified, and it's just how it's supposed to be. And
like, that's the fun part. I've been at peace with the decision. My mom keeps going, "Are you okay with that?" Yeah. I haven't missed him a bit, because I'm trying to think, what redeeming quality do I have from that man?
yeah.
I got a lot of shit I deal with still, mind games I deal with still. Okay, I got his work ethic. But it was more of proving him wrong was the work ethic, not him doing anything. I know, I love the crunched up nose. That's hilarious. So
I'm
go
pretty
ahead.
sure Wildman and I said those exact words last week when
Yeah.
we discussed the stepfather, was that he got his work ethic from him. It's just
Okay, but like, that's the story you have to tell yourself to try to come up with anything that's a redeeming quality. I guess I'm charming too, but I don't use it to manipulate. I don't try to manipulate anyway. Maybe I subconsciously do. Do I manipulate you, Brittany?
I don't think Brittany can be manipulated.
No, that's what I'm saying. You would call me out on that. You would see right through that.
Yeah, no, Brittany doesn't do that anymore.
No. So we're out of time now.
Yeah.
Wow. I was looking at the clock and I'm going, we missed each other so bad on this show. Like I said, we still talk on the phone, but we haven't done this in a very long time. Good to be back, and perfect topic to come back on here in episode 30, you guys. Narcissism and gaslighting. Hopefully now you know kind of how to look for the signs of it. And, you know, quite frankly, if you are narcissistic and you're just realizing it after watching today's episode or listening, great.
Yeah.
Is the first step in trying to be better from it. And I'll admit, I've had those moments, and I still have those moments. And I've got a friend that's willing to call me out, and I'm glad she's in my life. All right, friend that calls me out, end the show for us.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, ALEXA, YouTube every week, 4 p.m. The episodes will air there. Obviously, OneStepDeeperPodcast.com. You can find all the episodes there. We are on the socials, Facebook, and I was about to say iTunes. Wow. Instagram, Facebook and Instagram. You can find us One Step Deeper there. Like Jimmy said earlier in the show, guys, if you can't find us, it's a problem. But also, if you're out there and you love the show, please give us a review. That's how we grow. That's how we learn, you know, and give us feedback. What you want to hear. We love to hear from you guys.
And we're at 30 episodes now. This is kind of a rite of passage. Today's episode, once you get over 30, you're no longer a baby podcast anymore. We're kind of a walking toddler at this point. And I was kind of mapping out the rest of the year. We're going to be like into the 40s, like the mid to late 40s by the time we get to the last episode of the year. So I'm excited. This has been a lot of fun. And God, you are a sight for sore eyes doing this show again. I missed this. I can do my interview style in my sleep, but this one I have to feel and think, and I love every minute of that. So, guys, thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah.
OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.